All right. Dancing's optional. Oh. Mark, we are glad to have you today. Now, you are a candidate for the Oklahoma County Commissioner. So you are the first county person we've had on. We appreciate you joining us tonight to talk about that. We've had state, we've had federal, we've had a couple of local politics. But yeah.
Yeah, I am running for District 1. We have an incumbent there. He is a Democrat, Jason Lowe. And when it comes to him, the only discussions I generally have at the doors are policy discussions, because that's what this is about, So we just have a different, I would say, opinion as to what direction we should go. You probably know I'm with People's Council for Justice Reform, which is kind of like you guys, about as grassroots as it gets. We're created out of a handful of people fighting in the same room for the same things and then going, who's that person? So Sean Cummings, Sarah Banna, Sharice Baker, Nanette Cummings, who they call each other cousins, even though they are different races. But it's probably true with the Irish. I have no idea how that works. Connie Johnson is with us. Steve Hunt does some things with us. Melissa Gray, my partner, does things with us. So a pretty good group. Chris Johnston still does a lot of things with us as well. So we've been battling to reprioritize how we run our country, or our county too, for that matter, but right now county. And our belief has always been that we should do what counties across the country are doing and do restorative justice instead of what they like to call diversion justice, which means anybody who wants help, if you're homeless or if you have mental health issues, if you have addiction issues, you pretty much have to go to jail first. And then we criminalize. So, we criminalize homelessness, we criminalize mental health, we criminalize addiction. And we've always believed, of course, that's the wrong approach to it. And the benefit of this is it's a rare moment where it dovetails on both sides of the political spectrum, meaning that people on the right, you can pitch this to them and say, well, here's the situation. If we do this, like they've done in other counties across the country, generally they'll reduce their jail population by about 50%. And I think most people by now know that with homelessness especially, it costs twice as much for them, to taxpayers, for them to be on the street as it does to actually help them. And then, of course, that dovetails in a lot with mental health and addiction as well. So, and if you cut your jail population in half, now you also get to build a smaller jail instead of for all eternity increasing incarceration. So that's my basic pitch on that. So, and it's what we've really been fighting for years, to the point where we're perplexed that they seem to not be hearing us until we dug deeper into it and we find out that so much of it is tied to money and the monetization of unfortunately, everyone from there's a terminology in private equity that is called from cradle to grave. And that's very literal at this point. Private equity is buying nursing homes and funeral homes. And so, they make money off of us all the way across the board. And we just believe there are some things that should not be monetized. And other people's suffering is one of the main ones for me. So.
Well, you were at the city council meeting yesterday. I never in my lifetime, and I've been in politics almost all my life. I mean, I remember my folks making us all watch the Reagan Carter debate,
Oh wow, that's cool.
right? And have opinions. Like they were asking us to form opinions. I was 6, 7 years old. My oldest brother was 16, 17 at the time, right? And all of us are expected to have opinions on this debate that we're watching at, again, a young age. I, I, I I could not believe my ears listening to a developer's attorney with a well-known last name standing up there with the city council and the mayor writing the bribe language for the amendment to get it to change their vote to change from a delay or deny
Yeah.
to a pass, and then them say that's not bribery.
Well, and it's because it's a weird thing, and I think probably most people are kind of aware of this, maybe not, but it's this thing where when you're corrupt and everything is about buying and selling as a commodity, whatever it might be, and you've done it for so long, they look at you like, well, no, this is how we do business. We've always done it this way. And they're not wrong, but that also doesn't make it right, so.
Usually though they do it in a back room or at the bar or at the restaurant before you get to the meeting. I've been in a couple of those, and I completely get that. It just rattled my brain to know and to watch it play out like that.
Like
Sorry,
is that the world we live in? Like we could just blatantly just that's okay. If you add on 2 more acres and change this verbiage, we're good. Like, you're like, did this just happen? Like in the climate that we're in right now, we're like, for real.
It's brazen on every level. Like at the county level, the stuff we've dealt with there has been insane because we're one of our people, a couple of us, but especially Chris Johnston, loves to do FOIA requests. So we get so much information, and you will hear things like, Miles Davidson saying to someone else, hey, and I think it was Trisha Everest, who is a billionaire gaylord, so these people are some of them are billionaires and the rest are cronies or 1 or 2 steps down, but they're all pocketing something. They're all working. They all want to be at that billionaire level, but saying about the CARES Act money, like, well, we'll take this money and we'll say it's for this, and then that will basically launder the money, the federal, from the federal government. And then they will bless the funds, and then we can spend what he literally called the blessed funds any way we want. And they just say that like that, and they're okay, cool, that's awesome, And the corruption level is insane, and I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but I believe it was in the 90s, might have been the late 80s, Oklahoma had one of the biggest county commissioner scandals at the time. It was the biggest one in history in America.
Is that the one that had to do with the Penn Square Bank?
Yeah.
Or is that different?
Yeah, and we ended up, I'm pretty sure they convicted people from the county commissioner's office in, I want to say, 75 out of 77 counties.
And the auditors actually had to leave the state before those indictments came in.
Really?
I remember that, yeah. And then I have a friend of mine's dad who was one of the auditors.
Yeah, and yet that's here crazy. We are still doing the same thing 35 years later or whatever it is, and acting like it's still just fine, So
it's okay.
That's a big part of it, is just the level of corruption that we have here, So
the status quo, because that's just what we do. I'm like, but that's not working for us. Clearly, that is not working for us. Yep. And when we talk about criminalizing mental health and substance abuse, as somebody that works in the field, it's frustrating. And then I keep hearing candidates talk about, oh, well, we really got to get mental health into the jails. We've really got to get substance use into the jails. And I'm like, A, we have that. B, it's been bigger and able to help more people. And we just keep losing funding. So,
Yeah.
But you want to build a bigger jail instead of just fixing the problem, when it's cheaper just to house somebody and give them some adult daily living skills and some case management than it is to continue to jail them and put them on the street and then try to charge them for being in jail.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're in there under more than one charge, this is what I hear, that your fine's double. Or at least that's how it was in Garfield County. I'm like, that makes no sense.
No, it's absolutely the same here. And to me, there's several things wrong with, I'll call that a business model, because that's kind of what it is. One of them is that the worst thing you can do with someone with mental health issues is put them in any jail, especially Oklahoma County Jail, which is run horribly. And the other day, the jail trust chair, Jim Holman, was trying to say he's trying to clean up the image of the jail. I don't think they're cleaning up the jail, but the image. Let's work on. It's a PR problem,
All right.
60 deaths in 5 years is just a PR problem. And he said, well, it's been called the deadliest jail in America, and I coined that phrase for our jail. But then he said, yeah, but Harris County in around Houston and Rikers Island, they've had a little, a few more deaths than ours. So we're not the deadliest. We're one of the worst. But what he didn't say was that Rikers Island generally has about 7,000 people in it. And if they have, so when you do it based on the jail population, because our population goes from anywhere from 1,600 to 2,000. Harris County has 8 to 10,000 and about the same number. Rikers Island has 6 to 7,000 and about this. So they have 4 to 6 times the jail population and still barely beat us on the numbers. So when you do it based on a population, you don't take a city of 20,000 and go, wow, you had 4 murders. Yeah, but Oklahoma City has, well, that's 100 times bigger city. So I don't know. It's like, well, why don't y'all just do the hard work to make it better and quit criminalizing people, quit traumatizing them. We have the 988 number for a reason. We should have mental health, teams that go out when someone we have dealt with people that we're very close to, and what you find out as much as anything, and I know this isn't a one size fits all situation, but many, many, many times, if a homeless person just gets some stability, a roof over their head, and it doesn't have to be fancy, just a place to not 24/7 wonder if you're going to get attacked or if you're going to get arrested by the police or harassed by the police, if a 0-degree storm or an ice storm's not going to, or 110 degrees in the summer, it's 24/7 crisis mode. And if you didn't start with a mental health issue, spend a month on the streets and tell me you don't have anxiety and stress and constant crisis.
Well, and when the reality is if we could house them and give them some case management, teach them those adult daily living skills again, or if they've even been taught, and that's what we're not doing. That's what's not happening. Now they have specific programs that might have a grant and that kind of thing, but they make you jump through so many hoops that certain agencies don't want to work with. So some of these grants, I mean, it's really great in theory, but you have to jump through so many hoops that it's almost not worth it, which is, again, very detrimental.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a couple of things that we found out. And so I covered Wall Street fraud for about a 10 to 15-year period. Wrote a book about it, about this company that was one of the worst penny stock scams in history, and ended up being a writer and the field director on a documentary about it in New York. So I was used to digging up fraud. I was used to and a very complex fraud. I thought that was horrible because you would go, man, there's people who are retired and you're stealing their pension money and all of that, and that was bad. But this is like, no, you're picking up bodies off the street and you're putting them in jail, and then you're feeding them into a system. And I haven't even done it, but I need to do this at some point. But you pick them up. So the police, they're making money. They're constantly getting funded on this. The jail gets a per diem for everybody in there, which is why I don't know if they still do it. For a very long time, if you go down and visit the jail shortly after midnight, you see several people getting released. That's because by stretching out the release time past midnight, we got another. It's like late checkout at a hotel.
Right.
You got to pay for another day. So they make money. The district attorney makes money. The police department keeps all of your most valuable, especially money, over at the police station. If you don't pick it up, and they're only open 9 to 5, if you don't pick it up within, I don't know what it is, 2 days or a week at the most, they keep it. It goes into their retirement fund for the police officers, their union fund. So, the FOP gets to keep it. And a lot of people, frankly, get out of a jail and go, well, they took my last $25, but I just had a horrible encounter with the freaking police, and I don't want to go back in. So I would rather walk away from that. Or they don't have transportation to go. So, everybody gets a cut. It's a crazy thing. Attorneys make money off of it. And then the clincher, when I thought that the nonprofits were at least there to help, I'm going to say a handful of them are. Most of them, either by design or by just poor system that's set up, don't do a good job. But for example, I got arrested on the first day of protesting George Floyd. I was literally within 5 minutes of protesting, I'm in jail. So not planned by any stretch of the imagination, but that's how I found out the jail was that bad. But what I found out in there is that the whole thing is just this ugly scheme. So then I go in, we finally do a plea deal because they had continued my case about 10 times, maybe. And I had a pro bono attorney. We had some good attorneys that stepped up during the protest era and represented us. Finally, we did a deal where I had to pay for all of the continuances, and I had to do 20 hours of community service. And they said, well, no, you get Shine. So Shine is a company that a nonprofit. It's run by Brian Mon, who's a county commissioner. I think very recently it got shifted over to another nonprofit called Team. But so Brian Mon ran Shine, and they make a lot of money off of it. And the judge said, well, no, everybody gets Shine. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I can't pick the nonprofit that I want to do. And finally he said, well, okay, here's what we can do. The only way you can not get Brian Mon, our county commissioner's nonprofit, is if I get the judge to write, this is what my attorney told me, not Shine in big letters across your paperwork. and I hardly believed it, but when I got my paperwork, it said not Shine across it. Otherwise, yeah. And Shine goes around just cleaning up stuff. The worst of it is they'll make Shine people who are doing their community service through Shine, many of them who are homeless or have been homeless, they're the ones that they a lot of times make tear down the encampments. Yeah. So it could be a place where you knew people, or it could be, and again, now you're traumatizing people further, you know. And it was a diversion hub that's run by Suanne Arnall, who is a billionaire and used to have a really good reputation. And I'm going to say that her reputation is not as good as that used to be. I can't even tell you that she isn't trying to do a good job, but she's very much about control. She is Harold Ham's ex-wife.
Oh my God.
She's the one who famously got a settlement from him, and he was like, "No, I'm not giving you $1 billion." He wrote her a check for $975 million. Like here's your check, go cash it. You know, money's in the bank or whatever. So you have all these people who many of them are billionaires running these nonprofits. To me, they don't seem to be helping in most ways. As an example, let's say you're homeless, you get arrested, you get, okay, we're going to put you into a diversion program. That's how you can work out of it. And you have to do all these things. You have to do drug testing. Diversion Hub now does all the random drug testing. They get, I don't know, $11 to $15 somewhere in that range per.
For who? Who do they do the drug testing for?
It really, a lot of times it doesn't matter. I mean, we have worked with someone actually close to us who did not get arrested for drugs. It was a mental health episode, but they put them in drug testing. So you might get 3 to 4 times a week during business hours that you get a text in the morning at 7:30. You have to come in and drug test that day. You
So
have
I'm,
to
so
pass
I'm curious because that's usually with the court program. I'm just because I actually work with some of those people, so I'm just kind of like I it's not clicking for me.
Yeah, it used
because
to
it's
be.
not for everybody.
It used to be. They finally just handed it over to Diversion Hub, this nonprofit run by Suanne Arnall. And so as a result, a lot of times people who are supposed to get yourself better, get out of being homeless, get a job, somehow become a productive member of society, but at the same time, you might spend 10 to 15 hours a week having to jump through hoops so you don't go back into jail. So how the hell are you supposed to work full time while you're doing all these programs that to me mostly don't accomplish anything? You know, so it seems very contrived and doomed for failure from the start, and possibly set up for failure. You know, because return customers. You know.
Well, and
Always
some of
about
that
the money.
though, I mean, they have rights because they're human.
Absolutely.
So I get what you're saying, but some of that doesn't fit for me because I actively work in it. But it's at the same time because there are so many of those programs that don't have teeth. So when we talk about co-ops, diversion hub, team, all these court diversion programs, which are great, many people thrive and do so well in that. But when there's not teeth to those, and then we have a mental health episode or, a lapse in our substance, but then there's nothing, kind of like drug court. So drug court, if you mess up, right, like you might have to write a paper, you might have to do weekend jails, like you might have to do Shine or Team. But there's no teeth with that, with the mental health diversion programs. A lot of them there's not. Even when we did AOT, there was. So that's kind of where we can't force them to do something that they're not going to do, so long as they're not like a danger to themselves or somebody else. I know they try that as much as we can, but it's frustrating when you're trying to give people help and not everybody like really knows it's how that intricately works. I know I do the business side of things too.
I think he was talking about the money and how all of this money is exchanging hands instead of actively going into helping people. Because there are many ways to actually help people.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, okay.
a lot of grassroots organizations, OKC Mutual Aid, they're out there, once a week feeding people. There's other groups
Right.
that's out there every day, that are doing the work, and they're not getting city, county, or state money to do it. And it's just always ends up being a few moneyed interests own most of everything and get most of these contracts. At least that's how I understood what you were saying, was there's this funnel that these judges are using to funnel people through, even though it may not be in their best interest.
Yeah, and it's very specific places. As an example, Diversion Hub got somewhere between $12 and $20 million of MAPS money to build a whole new office complex and on all of this. And that's a billionaire. That's Sue Ann Arnold. She doesn't need taxpayer money. If you spread that money out between some of these smaller, and this is something we've advocated for, are more community-based programs. People in a specific community and even specific areas, east side, south side, wherever you might be, they know best what works in their community, but instead you end up with a very rich person who's never struggled probably a day in their life, who's running these programs. And then Palomar, they got another $18 to $20 million of taxpayer money. And that's run by Tricia Everest, who is a billionaire. She's a Gaylord, and I'm not even questioning that some of these programs might work, but I'm saying that it's a very narrow funnel of money going into the same pockets eternally. And I can tell you, as an example, North Care, we looked up what their compensation is for their CEO and COO, and their CEO makes over $500,000 a year to run a nonprofit. And I used to think, because it used to be a thing where, well, you had to really believe in what you were doing, because people running nonprofits, CEOs, they used to get 100,000, maybe 120, livable money, but not as much as a CEO in the private sector. But now you've got people making, between them and the COO, there's $1 million there in salary. And that to me is excessive. It's just excessive, especially since that's not their money. That's our money. It's all coming from county contracts that they get. So
it was very disgusting to see that the CEO, or the former CEO of North Care, made more than the former CEO of Red Rock, which is 5 times bigger. That it was like, wait, is this? You guys know this is public knowledge, right? Like who? But yet it's the little ones that like we're struggling. Like, can I just get like $1 raise or?
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for sharing that, because it's
Bags of Love, Santa's with the Love. They're two of the organizations that are literally on the ground, and they're doing what I would call, tending to the victims on the battlefield, sort of. That's what they have to do, and it's a very vital thing to do. It's one of the 3 tiers. You have to deal with the people who are hurting right now. You have to come up with a short-term system that helps them, and then you need a long-term system that makes it not happen over and over and over again. So they're the people right on the ground. It's a tough job. They don't get any money anywhere. It's crazy. They'll just raise money from private sources. a little bit at a time. Most of those people are barely scraping by themselves, and they're doing solid work, you know. So to me, it's that idea that if you give a billionaire $1 million, and that's lunch money. That doesn't mean a damn thing to them. That's business as usual. You take that $1 million and spread it out among 20 or 30 organizations, and it's a substantial amount of money that can help them do a much better job than they're able to do. And that's one of my biggest complaints is that the rich give money to the rich, and then we're the taxpayers footing the bill for all of it. And the people that I look at that I think are worthy, and again, it goes back to these community-based programs. They get by on very little funding most of the time, and they seem to do the most good with what little they have, with less resources, you know. So I like to see that spread out a little more, and more people that are actually doing the hard work get some support, you know. So it's a mess, and the deeper you dig, the more you find that, you know, they throw around money like it's nothing. Like as an example, Miles Davidson, the property that the jail is now supposed to go on, if they had the money for the jail, which we gave them in a bond issue, but everybody that did the research knew that wasn't going to build the damn jail. That land was owned by, first it came out that, oh, that guy maxed out on Miles Davidson's campaign. And for him, then he went in front of the media and said, no, it's not as bad as it looks. This guy is my best friend since like grade school. Okay, now it looks worse. So he actually said in an interview that they knew that jail was going to go on that property in 2007. 2007. His buddy, so it stalled for a while. They've been trying to jumpstart this jail trust so they could get rid of the old jail downtown, so they can build condos on it. That's really the real game plan, and get rid of all of the undesirables, quote unquote, you know, and move them out and dump them into Del City, which is what they're trying to do now. But he said, you know, well, we knew that was going to go there in 2007. So fast forward, around 2017, the jail trust is finally formed. And the Chamber of Commerce, who created CJAC and then the jail trust, is behind the scenes pulling these strings. His buddy doesn't buy that land until 2017. And he buys it for 1.1 million or 1.2 million. Now we move forward. It gets voted down. They're doing this whole dog and pony show, how we're looking for a place for the jail. It gets voted down, and he loses the vote 2-1. He's the only one voting for it. Then he's coming back on a plane, and he comes back in, and somehow it's back on the agenda. And he said that he was on an airplane, and somehow his phone by itself added that location back onto the agenda, which is, yeah, brilliant. And that time they get it pushed through, despite, you know, 100 people being there from Del City and us being there all trying to, in opposition to it. And so they buy this land for, I think, $5.2 million. So his buddy makes a $4 million profit over about a 6-year period on one piece of property. And that's just, it's, you know, what we were talking about earlier, the graft and the greed is just out there in the open. They just don't even go like, what are you going to do about it? You know? And what we hope we're going to do about it is, go ahead.
What kind of power, not power, I hate to use the word power. I mean, what kind of authority would you have as county commissioner?
Okay.
Over county?
Sure. That's a really good question.
Mhm.
One of the things that the county commissioner does that's really considered probably their most important job, even though it wasn't commonly known until the jail trust took over and it turned into the deadliest jail in America, is to run the county jail. So that is a by state constitution, that is under their now they can either have the sheriff run it, or 2 or 3 counties have this jail trust, which, by the way, in our opinion, and we have statutes to back it up, it should have gone to a vote of the people to set up a jail trust, but they bypassed that statute, went to another one. So that's one thing. You get to decide on how that jail is run. You hold the purse strings of the money. You're on a budget board with other members of the county commissioners. Now, the interesting thing is, each elected official in the county, so the treasurer, the county court clerk, the sheriff's department, all 3 county commissioners, they're all on the budget board. But because there's no the jail trust is not elected officials, a couple of people are sitting on that, one of the county commissioners and the sheriff, but they're advocating for their own departments. So nobody is sitting at the budget board meetings advocating for the jail budget. So it is very much underfunded. So it's really that structure that's been corrupted. As a county commissioner, one county commissioner can't do a ton, but frankly, we've exposed so much. And there's actually a really good candidate. Her name is Jennifer Mayo. She is running against Miles Davidson. So 2 of the 3 county commissioners are up for election this year. We replace 2 of them and everything turns upside down. We then get to dictate what are we going to do? Do we want to do better programs on the front end instead of making everything be funneled through the jail with like it's a clearinghouse for mental health and homelessness? So if you have that second vote, then you can. And honestly, we have gone in there with enough people and swayed votes, just like we all did at the city council meeting where we just ran ice out of town. And I'm more an organizer than I am a politician. I would love to have, anytime an issue comes up that we think is an important issue, I would be the county commissioner that said, unlike Jason Lowe, who tried to shut down public comment at the meetings, I would be the county commissioner that says, hey, by the way, this is an important vote. I'd like to have 150 people there, and here's why. And I would explain it to them. And I think that we have to get back to a type of a political system where our elected officials are not only accountable to the people, but that they encourage the people to speak up. Because Oklahoma, as red as we are, when you find the people who care and who fight, it's that equal and opposite reaction. The people fighting against the fascism and the red state bullshit that we deal with, I think all of us fight harder than anybody. We may not have the numbers, but we fight harder than anybody. So to me, I would want to turn it into a system where we do things on the front end, and we have, and again, it takes that second vote as a county commissioner. I hope that Miles Davidson has shown himself to be such a crook that he loses as well, and that if I win, and again, this is all we've advocated for. Slow the process down. Someone saying, what are you proposing to do to the jails? This is what we've advocated for. Slow the process down. Do some things to help with addiction, mental health, and homelessness. And if you take off, let's say, out of the 500 homeless people that are in that jail every month, thrown in jail every month, that's our average, sometimes more. probably 50 of them might even have any type of a violent crime. And most of the time, that's a mental health type situation. So 450 people who shouldn't be in that jail every month.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of people who have mental health issues, usually 500 plus. Of those, another 300 to 400 people. So our thing has been, what if we spend the money on the front end? We cut our jail population in half, and then we can come back to the voters and say, okay, look, we've done what we can do. We've reduced it from 15, 16, 1700 down to say 800, down to 700. And now we can go, now the voters with a little more confidence that we're putting in the effort to only put people in jail who belong there. Because people have to remember, 80% of the people in jail, in a county jail, our county jail, have not been convicted of anything. Some of them sit there for months waiting for trial. Other ones wait for months for a mental health bed. Other ones just revolving door because they're homeless and that's their crime, you know.
Racking up those bills. It's very expensive to be poor.
I think Michael has the next question, don't you, Michael?
Oh, there you go.
I do. I kind of want to touch on a few things. So, if and what kind of power would you possess to keep ICE from building like facilities in the county, assuming that they're going to try to build outside of the city, obviously?
That's an excellent question. There's a couple of levels of that, and I don't know if you all kind of followed me during the ICE thing, but I was, you know, as an organizer, and I think because I did all the Wall Street stuff, so I always went, follow the damn money. Let's see where it goes. And I found out who the owner was, and found out who the broker was, and the broker turned out to be a high-level Oklahoma City person who sits as the chair of economic development on the Chamber of Commerce. And yet he was about to make a boatload of money off of selling that for an ICE facility. We put in so many calls to them, and I exposed them at the council meeting, and they backed out. First of all, if I'm an elected official, they may not like it, but it will not slow down my activism in other realms. So there's that. But on top of that, you can do at least what, say, for instance, Kansas City did. They put in a 4-year moratorium on any federal ICE detention center. Now, could it be challenged in the courts? It could, but this is my philosophy, and I believe this is where we're at this moment in history. While we're trying to get through the midterms and we're trying to you know, push Trump off a cliff somewhere, not advocating for literally, but let's just say I wouldn't mourn too much if it happened. But while we're doing that, I keep telling everybody our job is to throw every roadblock we can in front of ICE. So if we slow the process down, I don't know that they've given up on Oklahoma City. Not sure about that. But we damn sure stopped them in their tracks on that building, you know, and I would wield the same type of influence. The first thing I'd probably do is identify any building in the county outside of Oklahoma City that was big enough or had the right, you know, the right configuration to be a detention center. I have no problem. I do it already with no power other than I'm loud and, you know, and I'm not afraid to piss off billionaires. On a county level, I think that we have every right as a county commissioner to contact those people and say, we need to know that you will not sell that. And if you don't, I will shame you. And I have no problem with that. But on top of that, I think we throw any roadblocks in front of them we can. We put in resolutions and we pass things that at least they have to take us to court if they're going to beat us. And I think that would be effective. And we're seeing now Trump's backing down a little bit, and he's mainly backing down because, hell, we're taking a stand. Oklahoma was like the first one to use that methodology, and I'm proud of us, Oklahoma City, for doing that. I'm proud of us for standing up. And the more we push back, the more you're going to find that they're going to, especially Republicans, they're finally starting to go, yeah, I'm up for reelection this year. I can't, this whole thing where you're arresting my constituents, and the message I gave it at the city council meeting a couple of days ago was that it just came out that they arrested about 3,600 people in Oklahoma from January to September of last year. Syracuse University did this. Something like 1.5 of them had serious aggravated criminal charges. Another maybe 3% point something had any kind of criminal charges. So 95% of the people that they snatched up threw into a system where you can sit for months before you even get, because there's like a 190,000 person backlog right now in Dallas at where that's where we go right now is Dallas. So you can sit there for months. So out of those 3,600 people, 3,400 of them got arrested. I think it was something like 65%, just because they didn't have their papers on them. Not because they didn't have papers, because they didn't have their papers on them. So if we can begin to chip away at that. And now I'll tell you another thing. ICE has officers in the county jail. Back during the George Floyd protests, when we had sometimes 50, 60 people show up at jail trust meetings raising hell, and it was beautiful. It was really something to behold. I'd be the one sitting up there going, okay, this is how democracy works. This is it right here. Y'all might be mad, but I'm pretty happy about it, we got them to vote. It was a crazy vote. They voted 4-2 because we just went in on them, and all these people spoke, and we had lots of discussions about it, and everybody gave, like they did at city council, very articulate, impassioned, in their 3 minutes. Boy, we put in everything that we needed to put in. They voted 4-2 to kick the ICE officers out of the county jail. There was one person, and I think it was Trisha Everest, one of the billionaires. She was on a Zoom connection. She was getting ready to vote, and mysteriously, she gets dropped off of Zoom. So we win. It goes out in the paper. ICE is kicked out of the county jail. The next day, their attorney says, our bad. You have to have a majority of the whole body, and there's 9 of them, so you needed 5 votes. So we do it again the following month. They vote again, 4-2 to kick them out. 2 other people are there, they abstain. So twice we voted to kick ICE out of the county jail, but they haven't done it because of this weird technicality, even though they do 4-2 votes all the time. So that's another thing I would do immediately is work to kick those ICE agents out of there, because they'll put holds on people. We were hearing that they were talking to people who were Hispanic, and the jail had nobody to interpret. So we're trusting the ICE translator to talk to them and go, oh, yeah, no, we need this person, and snatch him up. That's the only person who spoke Spanish in there was their translator. Yeah, so that's another thing that a county commissioner can do is to work to get rid of ICE in the county jail. And I don't know the percentages because they won't release them, but a good number of people are snatched up while they're in jail and being held. So there's ways to do all of that.
Was notified today that Logan County Jail is now an official ICE detention center as well. And Guthrie has also been protesting for a little bit, trying to get some sort of resemblance of normalcy, like these concentration camps. And then Mayor Holt said something about the supremacy clause, but the supremacy clause specifically states that it must be a lawful order from Congress. And concentration camps, I don't remember Congress voting for those.
I'm plugging my phone in so it doesn't die on me. Okay, I'm good. And yeah, that's the thing. He's saying, well, there's nothing we can do, and the reality of it is, like, okay, when Durant is taking a harder stand and a more hardcore stand than Oklahoma City, then we got a problem. We got a problem, And I know a couple of our council members, city council members, are working on something. I don't know what it is, but I know from James Cooper that they're working on something, and we'll help them if they need it to put that together. So, now we're advocating for, okay, we got rid of them. Now let's make sure they don't come back. Let's make sure, like you were saying earlier, they don't put an ICE facility on county property. And we've identified about 2 more warehouse industrial buildings that are big enough for ICE in the city. I haven't advocated for anybody to go after them or come out and even said where they are, because I don't want to be the one to tip off some asshole right-wing owner that he could make a quick buck off of ICE. So that one we're letting set, and hopefully our eyes and ears on the ground will let us know, before a deal is done, so we can go on attack against it. So there's a lot, and it really comes down to these states and these counties that go, oh, will this stand up in court? I don't know, but we damn sure got to do something. Did the person standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square, rightfully, could he stop that tank? No, but you got to do something, and we're at that moment in history that we have to fight every step of the way, down to the point where I'd have been prepared to chain myself to the front of that damn building if that's what it takes. And that's where we're at, And if we don't do that, we're going to look back in history and go, oh shit, we kind of did the same thing that happened in Germany. Are we at that level yet? Obviously not. I don't want to make a comparison to the Holocaust, but I will tell you the early stages of what happened there are happening here. And it's up to us to be the ones to stop it, And to me, getting inside just gives me more clout, and it gives me more weapons and more methodology to slow down the assault on democracy that's happening right now. So,
Absolutely. Elizabeth, did you have a question?
No, I think you had another one.
Perfect. Yeah. I just wanted to kind of see how you would balance, I guess, growth in county while also maintaining like the rural areas without like detracting from those rural areas, like their resources, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. So, in what manner do you mean? Are you talking about the encroachment of developers and that type of thing, or just?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. That's become a problem, and it's become a problem I'm hearing a lot more about lately, as I'm either out on the doors or people I know that live outside of the city proper. And I grew up in on a 1-acre farm that my grandfather built the house back in the 40s or something like that, and it was on Kelly Street in Edmond. When I was a kid, that was rural route, and it's only 1 mile away from downtown Edmond. So Kelly, and we were at like between Edmond Road and 15th Street. We were on propane and well water. And now fast forward, and Edmond has grown so much that they've just taken over everything. You know, the ponds I used to go to as a kid are now gated communities with a little lake inside. I'm like, yeah, that was our fishing hole over there, you know. So I'm very sensitive to that, and I think there has to be a balance. I think that, and we saw some of this the other day at the city council meeting, where people were coming in and going, "Hey, we're going to build this 200 unit housing addition right in the middle of," and this was inside Oklahoma city limits, right in the middle of a bunch of rural areas. And there was really only one. I think her name's Catherine Ayers, if I remember right. It was Ward 3. She's fairly new. She fought against it. They passed it over her head, and they were close votes. You know, she did a good job of that. But I think that it's important to protect the rights of not only the landowners, but the landowners surrounding these properties. You know what I mean? Because your quality of life is now reduced. And not only that, now you're screwing with the water flow. Now and hell, we may end up with AI having to deal with that in Oklahoma County at some point. And I can just tell you, I would fight that tooth and nail. I think that we have to, and again, I say that as someone who grew up in the country, but a mile away from downtown Edmond. And now I've just watched everything I ever loved just be destroyed and turned into rich people gated communities. And you know, it's a problematic. It's a problem across the board. So, and I'm not sure what all tools we have. Again, if we can change here, I think this is what it comes down to. If we can change the culture and the priorities of how Oklahoma County operates, and people begin to see that that works, then I think even a Republican county commissioner would have to be like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's funny that they all pitch limited government, but hell no, we'll bulldoze your house in a heartbeat. We don't. Okay, that's how is that personal property rights and limited government? Because it's not, you know. So, and it's something I haven't looked into what the tools are I would have for that, but definitely it's something I'm very aware of. So,
Man, I'd like to see an eminent domain where we take one of these private hospitals they're closing and turn it into a county regional hospital. So I was just like, that
no,
would be a good use of eminent domain, in my opinion.
you're not wrong about that. Here's the funny thing. Not funny. I'm actually kind of pissed off about it. I went and did a live stream in front of Southwest 59th and Penn. West St. Anthony's became SSM, and it was a mental health facility. And then it shut down. 6 or 8 really nice big old buildings there, and it was empty for years. And they're going, hey, we're spending, what did they spend? $54 million of ARPA funds to build this mental health facility that's really part of the jail. It was going to be a pod inside the jail until we started turning them into the federal government. And then they went, yeah, the government literally said you can't build a jail with ARPA funds money. So we got that ruling. That happened. So what did they do? They moved it outside, and now it's a separate building, but you can't get in there unless you're arrested. And then Jason Lowe, our Democrat county commissioner that I'm running against, came out and said, well, we're just going to put you in there long enough for you. And he's don't forget, he's an attorney, so he can make money off all this stuff. Long enough for you to be declared competent, and then you'll go back in the jail. So it's not really an alternative. It's just a place to get your head just clear enough that we can now charge you with whatever crime we were going to charge you with. So they've spent $54 million. They're going to have 60 beds. That's what $54 million got us, 60 beds. When we have 500 people at any given time, generally under mental health observation in the jail, and you got 60 beds. So I did a live stream 2 years ago in front of that empty facility. And I went back to the county and I said, you should buy this. Your money's going to go a hell of a lot further if you buy this instead of building. And the reason they build new stuff is the rich developer buddies don't make money off of remodels. They just don't. The real money is in these brand new buildings. Fast forward, the state just a few months ago bought that building, bought that complex. So they're going to turn it into a mental health facility. We were going to build, the replacement for Griffin up here. Somehow we ran out of money. I don't know what we did with the money there. So as an alternative to save money, the state bought that exact place that I was telling them to buy. And they could have saved the county, who has far less money than the state, tens of millions of dollars by doing that. But they won't do it because here's another thing. We have walked around and looked at one point, there may not be this many now, but there were 5 or 6 empty hotels and motels, 2 or 3 of them down on Shields where it's not as ritzy, I'll just say, and I was advocating for buy up those motels and turn them into temporary housing for the homeless population. It's economical and it makes sense, from a cost perspective. Didn't do it. Now there's one downtown that somebody bought and they're turning it into studio apartments and charging $1,000 a month for these 350 square foot hotel rooms turned into a studio apartment, So that's the thing is I think the graft and the favoritism to these wealthy developers is so deep and so entrenched that oftentimes they don't want to do the right thing. They want to do the most profitable thing for their buddies, So here we are in that greedy world, that we've been in for so long. And keep in mind the jail developer, the architect, and the builder for the jail are the 2 companies that they hired as a consulting firms to tell us whether we could remodel the old jail or whether we needed a new one. Of course, they said we needed a new one, and now that's the architect and the builder on the jail. So same thing that Keating did decades ago on the first private prisons. He hired a consultant who was his buddy in the federal government, Harvey, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he went to work for CCA. And I interviewed this woman for a film series we're working on, and she happened to be here at that time. She was from Washington, but she happened to be in Oklahoma. And she said, hired this guy. He worked for free, came back, and she said sarcastically, in record time with a recommendation. Meanwhile, Keating gets elected governor. Before he's inaugurated, CCA, the private prison company, breaks ground on 2 prisons in Oklahoma. They bought the property. Now they've tied the ownership of the property to the Keating family, but she's like, they don't have a contract, but hey, they're private enterprise. They can do what the hell they want. And so magically, he brings in a guy from CCA. The guy from CCA says, I know what you should do. Look, there's 2 prisons getting ready to be built right here. Just bring in private prisons. And that's how we started private. And this is the same model over and over and over and over and over again. Your consultant is also your builder. So what's he going to tell you to do? Build. So it's ugly. And really graft has overshadowed and pushed compassion and common sense aside for forever. So we hope that changes. I'm I'm not going to live to be 200. My mom's 91. She's still doing pretty well. But I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'll try whatever I can try to push back, at least in my own area, in the area where 5 generations of my family lived, and my family's stepdad is Comanche, so he always says, "Well, we were here waiting for you when you showed up." So I don't know. I just want our little bubble in the middle of Oklahoma to lead with compassion and caring. I don't care if people get rich. Just don't get so rich that you didn't leave something for the other people who are barely surviving on the bottom end. It's not too much to ask. So
Man, that is a lot, a lot, a lot.
I
I
know.
worked, God dang, 2004. I worked with Bill Nations from Norman to
Mhm.
introduce a bill, and we got it passed. And I was able to handpick, it was for a task force, and I was able to recommend all of the people who would be sitting on this task force because we wrote the bill. I
Yeah.
lobbied for it myself,
Mhm.
and so we gave all the recommendations, but we were smart enough to know that we had to include the people who would oppose it. The apartment association, the home builders association. So I'm like, okay, you need to appoint Wes Cravens because he's going to oppose it. It's never going to do anything if he doesn't have a say. So we've got to counterbalance him with these two people over here so that his voice doesn't drown out everybody else's voice.
Sure.
And it has been like that. Again, this was 22 years ago, and it is just crazy to me to still be sitting here talking about this good old boy network that they are so entrenched in for
Yep.
so long.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you're up for election. You're trying to take this seat. Thank you for that service.
You're welcome for
How can people get involved if they want to donate to you, if they want to come volunteer for your campaign? Where do
okay.
people go?
Thank you. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's fun. I haven't got to do enough, the long term time video like this. I appreciate this format. It's so much. Your questions have been great. It's just it's beautiful, and I love what you guys are doing. So, my website is just Mark Faulk. So Faulk, Mark Faulk, the number 4, OK.com. That's also the name of my TikTok page. So it's easy to find. That'll lead you to where you can contribute if you want. My background is I've got so many different backgrounds that I designed and built my own website. And I mean, we are as grassroots as it gets on a campaign. And we've been hitting the doors, and it's been phenomenal. Like I'm always waiting, to put it bluntly, for the first fuck you at the doors. And I haven't had it yet. Anybody who has answered the door and had more than a 1 minute conversation goes, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's a Democrat seat. So if I get through the primaries, I'll win it. We're 2-to-1 registered Democrats in District 1. So it's District 1. If you go to my page, there's one page will have voter info, so it'll have a map. It'll tell you. Now, remember, Democrats did not stupidly get the paperwork filed for independents to be in our primary this year. So if you're an independent and you want to become a Democrat just long enough to help get some of us in this cycle, you have till April 1st to change your registration.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who wants to do that, man, switch back. Do like Bernie, be a Democrat, and then go back to being an independent. I would appreciate it. We do more with less money than any other candidate you've probably ever seen. We count every dollar. I come from a very poor background. I know how to stretch a dollar more than anybody. So yeah, anybody that contribute a little bit. I'm not going to say how. Yeah, fuck it. I'm about to turn 70. I know. Still got a lot of energy. Still feel pretty darn good. I surprise myself sometimes because I'm still at it. I think this keeps me going, you know. On February 28th, that's my birthday, we're doing a kind of birthday party slash spring kickoff for the campaign on February 28th. It'll be an event page on Facebook. I'll put it on here as well. And it's at my daughter's dance studio. It's Everything Goes Dance Studio. Used to be in the plaza. She's now over off of Fifth and Class and has a beautiful big front room. And yeah, that'll be a blast. I don't know if y'all have ever heard Peggy Johnson perform. Phenomenal leftist lesbian songwriter, just one of my favorite people of all time. Is going to come.
We tried to get her for the rally opening day, and she never did get back with us. But she's been up there on stage with us before at a couple events. I just love her.
She's great. But she's going to perform that day, do about a 30 or 40-minute set, and then we can spend the rest of the time plotting the overthrow of the status quo in Oklahoma. So anybody that wants to come to that is welcome. And yeah, go to my website. There's a form that you fill out. Any way you can help, whether you can make calls or knock doors, contribute a little money, you know, just let us know. Whatever you're comfortable with, we will take all the help we can get. So, and we appreciate you guys so much. So.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so glad you came on.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys. This has been great.
Awesome. Thank you all. We're so excited. We're still trying to get a debate for is it CD1 with Erica Watkins and John Croissant.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're working on that. And then we have Mitchell Jacobs.
Yes.
Kevin up as well. So you in good company. We'll get this out on YouTube in the next day or two, and then we'll shoot you the link as well as post it, you know, over on Facebook and all the other things too.
Excellent.
So, yeah, we really appreciate you coming on,
Right.
and good luck in all of your endeavors. And thank you for especially fighting ICE. I mean,
right.
My goodness, we don't need concentration camps here.
No. You know, as an organizer, there's nothing more satisfying than a live crime scene like that and having a group of people come together and go get a win. Because when you get a win, then you go, we can do this, you know, and we can. We can.
There's a lot of it. Lisa and I were talking about that. I don't think they saw us coming. You know, they see a lot of the same faces, but now that some of those faces that have always been there kind of in the back are also now coming forward, like.
Yep. Yeah. I'm talking to some national organizing organizations have reached out to me, and I'm, you know, giving them what little help I can, because they're like, whoa, Oklahoma City did this. I mean, they're watching us nationally, and that's cool. We earned it. We earned it. So
well, and you know, we have Jessica is running Oklahomans Against ICE and also the core civic stuff. So we had done a FOIA request for Sayre and Watonga. Watonga has opened up their facility despite everything. And one of the things that Watonga did that I just cannot even understand or fathom the horror that is going on in our state is they agreed to expand their airport so that DC-80s and some Boeings 700 series can land and take off from Watonga, Oklahoma. Now, these are some pretty large planes that should be flying out of Will Rogers more than likely, you know, but we're going to take them off at Watonga to give these guys an escape route. That how are we going to get eyes on it when, you know, we did phone banking in the town and over 90% of them were for this concentration camp being reopened to help their economy because they were
know.
drowning without it. And that's what they do, and that's what they bank on in all of these small towns in Oklahoma. And it's
And
just criminal.
CCA and Geo Group, they both generally build out of the city limits.
Right.
And that's smart on their part as predatory, corporations. They'll build 10 miles outside of it. I went and filmed there one time just for I needed some B-roll shots when they were closed. And I was able to just wander around there as creepy as can be. And I hate seeing that happen, but they're harder to deal with, and they're not in a population center, so you can't get 300 people easily out there. We did it at Fort Sill, though,
Right.
So,
Right.
all right.
There's always hope. Always
Yeah,
hope.
absolutely.
We just keep going and keep going.
That's it.
Well, I told her to go ahead and post all of the documents that we got under the FOIA. Just go ahead and make them public information, and let them sink or swim on their own. These guys, the best disinfectant is the light of day.
Amen.
So
Amen. Yep.
Anyway, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for coming on, and good luck on your campaign.
Thank you. We're just going to work hard and do the best we can. And I think we got a shot. So
yeah. Think you do too. All right. Thank you.
Yes, thank
Everybody
you.
have a good night.
Yeah, thanks, guys.